Introduce myself first. I'm Mimi Lufkin, the former CEO of the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity. My title now is CEO Emerita, and I am still the project director for our NSF Includes grant. And today, this is a meeting of the network. And Kathleen, if you, oh, it's already recording, so we're doing great. I want to give you a brief introduction to the network, and the idea here is that we have 6 states working on a collective impact project specifically focused on broadening participation in STEM, looking at increasing the numbers of underrepresented students who engage in STEM education, primarily at the middle school, high school, and early college years in those transition phases of educational pipeline. The 6 participating states are Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. So Intermountain States is the I'm STEM logo. You'll see that there. Our common agenda is to broaden participation and close achievement gaps in 7 through 12 and undergraduate STEM education by scaling effective practices that close these gaps at the critical junctures that currently limit participation of underrepresented students in STEM pathways. We're doing this through a collective impact model that really drives the work across the 6 states. So we have a management team that's focused on sort of the logistics of the work, a steering committee that represents membership from across the 6 states. If anybody that's on the call who's currently not a member of the steering committee is interested in serving, please reach out to us about that. And then the boots on the ground work is really through our work groups. We, in the original proposal, had designed 6 work groups. We early on combined our communication and resource sharing and outreach and growth work groups into a single work group. So right now we have 5. And you'll learn more about these work groups at the end of the today's call. The intent here is that we also have professional development work that we're doing at the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity across the 6 states that are serving as pilots in terms of looking at effective practices and professional development that are part of building the state network. So many of you who are on today's meeting may very well have been introduced to this work through your participation in our professional development or through other connections that you've had through people who've been involved in broadening participation in STEM work across all the states. So the focus of today's meeting is really on building community amongst the state networks themselves. So going back to what we do, we're really about trying to foster new partnerships, supporting and growing a robust network, and want to thank you for participating in today's activity. We're looking at developing an asset map across the 6 states, and we have an example of a state level asset map today that we'll be sharing as one of our best practices. And so looking at identifying and sharing best practices and scaling those is part of our particular interest. We want to share the lessons learned from the pilot projects that we've been doing around PD, and also the lessons learned from the projects you'll hear about today. And so every time this network gets together every quarter, we'll be sharing pilot activity or information about best practices across the 6 states.
Mimi,
yes.
Are your slides, are you supposed to be on a different slide than the network meeting slide?
I'm on the what we do slide.
Yep, we're seeing your first slide. So you
Correct.
might have it paused. Is it paused by chance?
No. I'm
now
going
it's
to.
now moved.
How's
There you
that?
go.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. So you missed all my other beautiful slides, but that's okay. This is an important one. So these are really the 6 things that we're doing. I did want to quickly mention that we do have the 5 work groups I mentioned earlier. So metrics, data collection and reporting, a work group on communications and resource sharing, asset map building, effective practice scaling, and pilot monitoring. Those are the 5 work groups. And we'll learn more about those at the end of the call when the communications and outreach group will be talking about next steps in terms of this is a great way for you as a network member to get involved in the work. So without further ado, I think we'll get right into the best practice sharing. One quick logistics item I want to bring to your attention is, again, coming back to the chat function. If you have any questions for today's presenters, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And I will try to monitor, Kathleen and I will try to monitor the chat activity and bring that information to you. Kathleen Fitzpatrick is also on the call, who happens to be our regional program manager, lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado, one of the participating states. You want to say hello, Kathleen?
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm excited to have this work being done in my home region.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen. All right, I'm going to pass the baton then to Daniel Horn, who's going to be talking about a project at Utah Valley University called Intermountain Prep.
Okay, thank you. Let me start my slideshows.
I'm going to move the slides for you, Daniel.
Oh, you will? Okay, so we're not, I won't be controlling.
I think that's probably easier.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so as the first slide here says, Intermountain Prep, I'm going to be talking about what it is, where it is, and how we know it worked, and then finish up with a comment about potential for collaboration. Next slide. So Intermountain Prep is a summer math camp that prepares and motivates middle school students to pursue STEM studies. Kids can only enter the program in the summer after grade 6. And once they're in the program, they attend classes 5 to 7 hours per day, Monday through Friday for 6 to 7 weeks. And below there is an example curriculum for years 1, 2, and 3. After that first summer, then they can be invited back for the next few summers. So you see a lot of focus on potential careers, logic and problem solving, emphasizes that math is built throughout the curriculum. And then they have different disciplinary classes depending on the year. There's engineering in year 1, physics in year 2, computer science in year 3, and so on. The curriculum is designed to be engaging and fun. The kids just love it. Next slide. Okay, so we borrowed the prep concept from TexPrep. TexPrep was brought to Utah Valley University, my home institution, by Carlos Cortez, who worked for TexPrep before coming to UVU. And we asked Lynn Andrus to run a UVU prep. She started with 24 students 6 years ago. We now enroll 90 students per year. And so we have roughly 270 students total between the 3 years each summer. And as far as getting students from underrepresented groups, we target our recruiting at Title I schools. Next slide. And so as this shows, Utah Valley University is shown there in the upper left. That's where we started. After a couple of years, Weber State University to our north picked up on the concept, and they started their own prep. And then a nonprofit organization called American Indian Services, which creates educational opportunities for Native Americans, they started a prep at a satellite campus in Blanding, Utah, and that one is mostly Navajo students. Next slide. So this shows the current state of where we have preps. We have preps throughout most of the state institutions of higher education in Utah: Weber State University, Salt Lake Community College, Southern Utah University, and Dixie State University. And then American Indian Services is now running 3 prep programs in Blanding, Tuba City, and Gallup, and all of those are on or very close to Native American lands. Next slide. So in terms of targeting underrepresented groups, each one of these different prep programs targets a different group. On the left there, you see the Native American students at the 3 AIS preps. Those programs run between 90 and 100% Native Americans, mostly Navajos. The Gallup includes some Zunis. Blanding also includes some Utes, and Tuba City is Navajos and Hopis. The other prep sites target Hispanic students, and at every site Hispanic students within prep are overrepresented relative to their percentage of the population. At Southern Utah University, you see there's not great Hispanic enrollment, but there's some. And here at UVU, you can see we're about 25% Hispanic compared to a 15% population. Next slide. And just a couple pieces from our evaluators report to show how we know it's working. We do a survey of all the students, pre and post survey, and ask them how certain they are that they will study sciences in college. And my slide just disappeared here.
That's my fault.
Okay. Anyway, so we see the darker blue is the pre and the lighter green is the post, and you can see a pretty good jump in the number of students who agree a lot or agree that they will study science in college. And keep in mind, these are all students who self-select into the program, so they're leaning that direction anyway. Next slide. Our evaluators did a whole series of structured focus groups, and they asked a series of questions and then had open response time. And from the hundreds of responses, they identified 3 themes that are the bold bullet points there, that students made statements indicating that they are challenged, but they have fun. And there's a quote there. And I won't bother reading the quote for time's sake. And then another common theme was teachers and program assistants promote learning, and students really see a difference that these teachers were there to help the students learn rather than to just get a grade. And lastly, students make friendships with like-minded people so that they are developing more of a STEM mindset and STEM identity by finding other people in that same boat. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, next slide. So here is what our organizational structure, that we have this backbone here centered at Utah Valley University. And we provide resources. We've developed literally hundreds of pages of curriculum so that any site that wants to open a new prep, we just hand them the curriculum and they just have to find a qualified teacher to cover it. We also have registration materials and promotion materials, really everything you need to run a prep program other than the teachers and the money to pay the teachers. Next slide. And then, so this works on that each site is independently managed. So each site has its own coordinator who's responsible for hiring teachers and coming up with the funding. I should say that funding is based for every one of these sites on collaborations with local school districts who are happy to have an opportunity to promote STEM education. And next slide.
That's the last of your slides.
That's the last slide. Okay, so let me just say, obviously, I've looked at other people who are in the webinar here, and there's great opportunity for collaboration. Prep ends in the summer after 8th grade, so it's only right now covering middle school, and so we need to talk to people about how to carry this model forward. Within our own region, and also because this is sort of a program in a box, if anyone is interested in developing a program for middle school students, we're happy to work with you.
Thank you, Daniel. Again, I want to remind folks, if they have any questions for Daniel, you can put them in the chat box. We'll have time at the end of the webinar to do some Q&A with the presenters as well. We're going to move on to the next program that's being highlighted. And I'd like to introduce to you Lena German, who's from STEM Santa Fe. Lena, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lena German. I'm the founder and the CEO of STEM Santa Fe. We just, exactly a month ago, we just had our STEM conference for girls on October 13, Expanding Your Horizon. It's a national program that has a template, and the template is to bring girls together who are interested in STEM and have hands-on workshops given and presented by women in STEM. We had taken this template and expanded on it. The one we just had on October 13th, we had a keynote speaker, Dr. Franz Cordova, who is the National Science Foundation Director. We have expanded the program to 200 girls, and that meant also 15, 16 workshops, hands-on workshops. We try to keep the group small, in a small class size. Why 15, 16 is we actually had a backup. We usually have 15 workshops and a backup workshop. And then during the conference, every workshop is repeated twice, but one of the workshops, the presenter had to leave after the first session, so we quickly put in the backup workshop for the second session. Every girl attends 2 workshops, and then we have lunch where all the girls get together with the volunteers, with the workshop presenters, and the keynote speaker, and then we have drawing for prizes that are STEM kits and college swag. And then in the afternoon, we have a STEM and college fair with live demonstrations. And the college part of it is usually the engineering and science and STEM departments from UNM, New Mexico Tech, New Mexico State, Navajo Tech, Santa Fe Community College, and so on. So it's never too early to start showing the girls what's available in college nearby. Next slide. So by the numbers, this conference we just had, we registered 199 girls, but 162 girls showed up. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. We have 65 adult volunteers. This is not counting the workshop presenters or the STEM fair presenters. The 65 volunteers are there to manage anything from registration to setting up to the lunch duty and so on. And so it takes a lot of work and also the group guides who go with the girls, as we divide the girls up into 15 groups. We also had some high school volunteers who are actually girls who've been to EYH. The EYH is for 5th to 8th grade. And once they can no longer be part of the conference, we're starting to now let them also volunteer and help out and be workshop assistants. The STEM and college fair, we had 21 groups, and some groups did a lot more than one demos. So, my last count was about 25, but it could be more than that in demos, and 16 workshops, all by women in STEM professionals. Next slide. So here's some statistics and some of our results. Out of the 99 that registered, 44 were white, 63 Hispanic, 15 Native Americans, 7 Asians, and 9 didn't respond to the demographic question. And the rest were a mix, like Hispanics, Native Americans, or Native Americans, white, Hispanic, white. So overall, we really are serving 78%, where 78% of the girls are from minority groups, which we know are underrepresented in STEM. I'm not sure if you could see the graph, but this was survey responses to the participants' attitude towards STEM before and after the conference. And if you see, like in the purple, that's the after the conference, and the green is before the conference. Their interest in STEM went up, in STEM fields. Their interest in attending college went up. Their interest in attending STEM classes once they are in high school went up. Their confidence went up, and their understanding how important math and science is to be successful in life has gone up. This is on a scale of 1 to 5. So from 4 to 5 is kind of almost what we have, and it's an average. Also, if somebody responded with a 5 before the conference and a 5 after the conference, we didn't include them in this graph. Next. So we have designed the conference to really address diversity issues, and really try to get broaden the participation of girls from underrepresented groups. So by design, we have this conference made for 5th to 8th grade girls, where we think is the most vulnerable age group, to impress them and to strengthen their interest if they really are interested in STEM before they lose that interest or have some peer pressure in high school that doesn't promote STEM. This is based on research that, if you don't encourage girls to get into STEM classes and STEM careers before they leave middle school, you almost pretty much lost them. Our registration forms are in English and in Spanish, and we distribute them to the schools, mostly Title I schools. We visit every Title I school in Santa Fe, and we contact the ones in northern New Mexico. We also pick the location to be Santa Fe Community College, mainly because it's closer, it's on the south side of town and closer to where most Title I schools are. When we look for a keynote speaker, we're always looking for preferably someone who's born and raised in New Mexico, preferably someone who's a Hispanic, definitely in a STEM career. And we do our best to find someone who, the girls can relate to. And then we have some discussion with that keynote speaker about what to present. And we mainly try to prep the keynote speaker on not to make the presentation too technical, but actually discuss and share the journey and what STEM has brought to their lives and their STEM career, and really talk about the perks and the challenges of a STEM career, so we can keep it real. We advertise, like I said, heavily to Title I schools, and our marketing for registration and invitation to register is all word of mouth. So it's not advertisement in newspapers. We don't pay for marketing. We really are trying to get the teachers and the parents to know about us, and they usually do. They find out. We have a $15 registration fee that's waived. Anybody who asks or checks on the registration form that they can't pay it, it's fine. We don't ask for any kind of paperwork, and the $15 is just a nominal fee to more or less lower the risk of no-shows. And, we divide the girls into 15 groups, and we give them group guides to chaperone them from one location to another, from the keynote address to the workshops and back to lunch and so on. And in the beginning, we used to use group numbers and just like number 1, group 2, group 3. And then we finally decided that a couple years ago that why don't we name the groups by famous women in STEM? And that's what we started doing. And that gave the girls more role models, even more than the women that they are interacting with at that conference. Next.
So, Lena, I want to remind you about the time limits for your presentation, and was wondering if you wanted to just. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So just challenges then, and what we're going to try to do to overcome those challenges and also to broaden the participation. We are having a request from the School of the Deaf that girls would like to participate. However, we didn't have funding to hire interpreters, so we're looking into that for next year. We still have an issue with a large number of no-shows. We have increased our capacity to 200 girls, but we still have no-shows, a large number of no-shows, about 25–30%, and we were gonna try to accept more walk-ins. There's always conflict with sports, and I don't know if that's a big deal, but in terms of what we did, but our t-shirts that we give the girls are all baseball shirts, but they say STEM on them. We're going to be renaming the conference next year because we are planning on using the conference as a kickoff for a year-long program with the girls, because we noticed that they're very excited after the conference and there's nothing else for them after that, not enough. So we are renaming the conference and the whole program, and we're asking the girls to come up with a new name, and we have some prizes. And we're going to continue with the word of mouth advertising, which also means identifying teachers at the schools who can help us promote the program. And success stories, I think you can see, this is the picture of the girls. And I love that picture because you can see the mountains. And we have an essay contest too for the girls to reflect on their experience. And there's some quotes there from last year's essays. And that's it.
Thank you, Lena. It's a great program. Looks like the girls have a great time.
Yep.
Our next presentation will be with the Wyoming After School Alliance on their out of school time asset map. And I'm going to ask Guy Jackson, who is the CT director at the Wyoming Department of Education, to introduce our two speakers.
Thank you, Mimi. We started this Wyoming asset mapping project, and we're really excited in sharing that with you. And to do that, I'd like to introduce Linda Barton, who is the director of the Wyoming After School Alliance, and Erin Price, who is the president of Glenn Price Group.
Thank you, Guy, for that. Basically, the Wyoming After School Alliance is a statewide after-school network. So our responsibility, we're one of 50 states, so all states have a network. Our job is really to work with programs around the state, ensuring that they have the kind of professional development that they need in areas that we've identified as being critically important. And this map is a representation of our STEM efforts over the last 3 years in what we've been doing in terms of increasing the informal STEM education through after-school programs and summer learning programs. And the idea of the map was really to see what is happening in the state via each program, what kind of curricula they are using, what communities they serve, where are the gaps, what age groups are they serving, and how do we support their efforts by increasing STEM opportunities, in particular for middle and high school students. We have predominantly, and I think this is true of most after-school programs, our elementary school, and sometimes going up to age 8, grade 8. But when you get to your your older youth, it's really hard to engage them. So our idea was to see where those gaps were and to provide healthy and innovative STEM education to that particular age group. And I would like to, there's more to it, I'm not going to go into it, but I'd like to introduce Erin Price, who is the president, as Guy said, of the Glenn Price Group, who really was instrumental in talking with us and getting this map put together. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin now.
Great, thanks Linda, and thanks Guy. Hi everybody. Let me know if we're having any bandwidth issues with video and screen sharing at the same time. So you should be seeing the maps here, and as Linda mentioned, there's some process around this development work that went into creating these maps and really building the data set that's fueling them. But I'm going to focus more on just the interface and what we were able to put together as a result, because I know we're pretty time limited on today's call and have other items to get to. So what you should be seeing on the screen, this is on the Wyoming After School Alliance website, so you can go and check it out on your own as well, is a set of different what we call views. So right now we're looking at the community served view. Every one of these dark red circles is a community in Wyoming, and every one of the orange circles is a program that's included on the map. And I'll zoom in maybe a little bit, not sure how legible this is going to be on screens, but you can see that these orange circles are connected to the red ones to indicate that they provide programming in that community. So if we look at Sublet And if we hover over it, we'll actually get a little highlight of everything that's connected. We'll see that there's a 4-H, Pinedale Elementary, and then there's also an item on here for the statewide 4-H. If we click on a single program, we'll get a sidebar of information about the organization, and this is all self-reported through a survey that we put out. And so there's organizational information, including their mission, kind of basic contact information about the STEM content areas that they provide programming within. And this was from a list that we developed and they selected from. Some information about the specific curricula that they're using. And then we get into a couple other items, funding and some other program elements. So want to take a second just to look at the interface and break it down a little bit more to show you some of the features that can be used. So there's a search, and it's unfortunately a little bit hidden, but it can be pretty powerful, especially in larger maps where you want to search for a particular program or maybe your program to review the information that comes up. As I demonstrated, I'm clicking on an orange circle to view information about a particular program included on the map. There's some filtering options that I will demonstrate in just a minute. Zooming in and out and zooming to fit the screen here with the buttons in the top right.
Aaron, I'm going to stop you for just a second. I'm sorry. I'm getting some chat from people who are saying they can't see this. So Kathleen, can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, and so can I.
I can see it just fine.
Turn off my video.
Someone was saying it's too small.
Yeah.
It's just too small. I can see it. A lot of people can see it fine. Okay, we're just going to keep going. I think it's just Stephen Gomez. I'll try to work with him in the background and see if we can't help him get connected. So keep going, Aaron. Sorry to interrupt. You've just bought yourself another minute.
Okay. All right. So hovering over an element, to use the terminology of the platform, will kind of temporarily highlight things that are connected. So I'm going to jump back into the actual website here and we'll take a look at another view. So the views are what's along the top here: community served, STEM content areas, STEM curricula, work experience, data system, and funding sources. And we came up with these. The work group that came together really had a full day discussion, I'd say, around how we want to be able to view different programs across what different slices. So looking at curricula, and I know it's a little small probably, so I'll try to zoom in, but we've got purple dots that correspond to specific, each is a specific curriculum, like FIRST Robotics or Destination Imagination. We've got code.org here. And if we wanted to see who in Wyoming that's on this map is doing Project Lead the Way, we could hover over that dot and get a temporary highlight. If we click and hold on that, it'll actually clear away everything else and we can kind of zoom in to really get a better look, and then click as needed to find out information about a particular program. So finally, and I know we've just got another minute or two here, there is a feature for filtering. So right now we're seeing programs by curriculum, connected curriculum, but we're seeing across all of Wyoming, and maybe we want to see this view just limited to some of the communities. So if we take everything off, maybe we'll bring back Hot Springs and Lincoln. We get a couple items. So one way that this could be used there's multiple use cases for this, I think some at the state level as well as by local programs, if they're interested in who else is doing STEM in their community, and maybe that's well known to them, but maybe not. Or similarly, who might be implementing a similar curriculum, but in a different area. They may want to connect to kind of share their experience and learn from each other about that particular curriculum. To view briefly just one final example of a different view. So looking at we kind of lump together as work experience, but it kind of covers a variety of different things. You'll notice that there's some over here that are not connected to anything. We did not filter this by ages served, so some things that may be more common for middle school or high school students, like mentorships, job shadowing. Some of these organizations just don't serve that age range. So I will pause there given the time, or I guess stop there, and we can transition into the next presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aaron.
Can I add one more thing? Do I have 2 seconds?
2 seconds.
Okay. We're going to be adding another overlay next year that will include legislative districts so that we can do a better job of creating policy advancements. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. So I want to encourage everyone who wants to take a look more closely at the asset map to go to the Wyoming After School Alliance website and take a look at it. Linda, maybe you could do us a favor and enter in the chat box the web address so everybody has access to that. That would be great. I did not put it
Sure.
on the
Absolutely.
slide.
I'd be happy to.
All right.
All right. So next, I'm going to turn things over to, let's see, where am I? To Brian Mitchell at the Nevada Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. Brian.
Hi, Mimi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Great. Thanks, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I was just on the Wyoming After School website looking around at what they're doing, and it's really great. Mimi asked me to share a little bit about an exciting announcement that our office had several weeks ago. Let me give you just a little bit of background. Our mission at OSIT is to coordinate and align efforts by K through 12 education, higher ed, and the workforce to improve and accelerate the education and workforce programs in STEM. Really kind of where, and one of the things Mimi wanted me to address is how STEM policy can work from a state level as opposed to from a local level, or either a school district or a community college or whatnot. And so, very briefly in Nevada, we were hit very hard by the recession about 10 years ago, and much of that was because our economy was very focused on non-STEM industries like hospitality and gaming and tourism. And so when the recession hit elsewhere, that meant fewer people were coming to Nevada. And so we were hit, I think, a little bit harder than other places. We led the country in foreclosures and in bankruptcies, and had the highest number of underwater homes, et cetera. And so one of the things that Governor Sandoval did when he came into office was to create an economic development program that focused on attracting STEM companies to Nevada. And after some big successes, we realized that we needed a people strategy to go with our economic development strategy. And so that's where the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology was born. And so we work to promote STEM education, both at the K through 12 level and in higher ed throughout the state, and to work to coordinate those efforts so that we have a workforce that will meet the needs of our employers. Thus far, one of our major initiatives has been to build STEM programs at the higher ed level that meet the demands of our new industries. And thus far, we've awarded 29 grants to a number of different institutions throughout the state that total about $4 million and will train about 2,500 individuals each year once they're all up and running. And I think as we work to develop a statewide vision for STEM and a statewide strategic plan, the first pillar of that strategic plan was equity. And so one of the things we realized is that we needed to do a little bit more than just building STEM programs, but also work to broaden participation in those programs. So I did a bunch of research, and that on institutions and higher ed, particularly at the community college level, that we're broadening participation in STEM, and all that research culminated in a grant award of $1 million to the largest community college in Nevada in Las Vegas. It's the College of Southern Nevada. And this is the beginning of a 4-year partnership that will develop new initiatives and strategies to increase recruitment, retention, and completion rates for underrepresented groups in STEM. The grant will, we just awarded the grant last month, so I don't have any data to share with you yet, but we're excited because CSN will be working to implement new strategies that will address not only the academic barriers that underrepresented groups face, but they'll also be working to address non-academic barriers as well. And so when I say academic barriers, I mean things like the cost of tuition and books, a lack of mentorship, the needs for remediation, maybe a lack of understanding about financial aid or advising processes and whatnot that come with a lot of first-generation students. And the non-academic barriers will be things like food or transportation costs, housing and childcare, or maybe sudden expenses that would prevent a student from completing their last semester in college. And so I think addressing these will really help us to improve our student success rates. There's also going to be a very specific marketing initiative that will recruit underrepresented students into these different programs that we've created before that meet our employers' needs. And so really, I would say, from a state perspective, I think what's been really helpful for us is having a governor that's engaged and that believes in STEM and that has put his name and funding in his budget to help build out some of these programs and really set a state vision for a new Nevada, as he calls it, one that's more focused on these industries. And I think that's helped open a lot of doors for our office to be able to engage in these types of partnerships. So with that, I'll stop there to help us get back on time.
Brian, thank you very much. I think one of the things that's important for us to think about as we're looking at broadening participation in STEM is that it takes everybody at all levels to engage in this work, not just practitioners in the field, but policymakers also at the state and national level. So thanks for sharing with us the commitment that the Nevada Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology has made, and particularly your recognition for the importance of equity in STEM and your investment most recently in a grant specifically targeted towards that. So we're excited about it and looking forward to hearing the results of the work. So thank you very much for sharing. Okay, I'm going to then move on next to our next presenter. I'm going to ask David Killicky and to tell us a little bit about the STEM on Wheels program.
All right, so this is Dave. Vicki, are you out there?
I am.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is a program that we have been doing for the last 3 years with some funding from Lockheed Martin, which has an office here in Colorado Springs. Basically an outreach program out to elementary and middle school programs or middle school age students for hands-on STEM activity, and I'll hand it off to Vicki to talk about it since she oversees the program.
Can you go to the next slide, please? So the STEM outreach, K-12 STEM outreach here at UCCS has been going on for the last 10 years, and it's kind of taken on different forms depending on what kind of funding we have and other things that were going on. As Dave said, STEM on Wheels is funded by Lockheed Martin, and we do a lot with very little money on this one. We basically provide before and after school STEM clubs in our low socioeconomic schools here in Colorado Springs. We are currently supporting 8 schools, 11 clubs a week, and we average basically seeing 220 plus students each week. How we do it is I have 10 undergrads and 1 grad student that work for us. We do extensive professional development, and these students basically get all of the supplies together and work with a teacher in the building and go out once a week and have these clubs. Next slide, please. Curriculum. Kathleen knows this very well because we used to work together, but we have over 75 different STEM workshops that can go anywhere from 45 minutes to a whole week, depending on what our subjects are. Each undergraduate student works with their school champion to plan out what kind of workshop curriculum they want to do for that semester, that is depending on that age group. And they can use these workshops, and we can basically differentiate them depending on the age group that we're working with. And we also encourage the STEM assistants to develop their own curriculum specifically in their major area of study. So I have 3 elementary ed majors. I've got 2 mechanical engineering, 1 computer science, 1 electrical engineering, 1 chemist, and biochemist. And so it's always nice to have them develop things in their areas of expertise. We do quite a bit of other additional outside of this program, STEM outreach. We work with local school districts. A lot of them have additional money through their gifted and talented funding, and we do, with our district and school partnerships, we basically do what we call STEM Super Saturdays, where they bring students on campus, and we do more in-depth STEM workshops. We do a lot in where we use faculty and other students here on campus too, and be able to include some applied sciences and mathematics, and of course technology in that area. In addition, every summer we have funding from the Army Educational Outreach Program that allows it to interleave in with our summer high school program that we do for a pre-collegiate program. And we have an engineering component to that. And we spend 4 weeks doing engineering exploration in all different engineering, or as many as possible, majors. We also do a project week. In the last couple of years, I've done a UAV project, so we've been building and learning how to do drones. And then we also have the students, when they become rising juniors and seniors, actually take concurrent enrollment classes in our engineering and our Bachelor of Innovation program here on campus. I think there's one more slide. Dave has a PhD in educational research, so our philosophy here in our department is no student will ever be left unsurveyed. So we do some quick evaluations, and we do more career and in-depth evaluations to try to get information to be able to tailor our programs a little bit better. When we even do a 45-minute STEM club, we try to do a quick before and after, and I have a little image there of what we do on this particular workshop. How did you feel about it ahead of time? How after? We try to always put a reflection piece in there if possible to try to continue to have them explore other options on their own, or to kind of get an interest of what's going on. I think that was the last slide. Oh, that's just my thank you notes.
Thank you, Vicki. Those are great. I love the thank you notes the best.
If I can just jump in just really quickly on our remaining time.
Please, David.
Yeah, we do have a program report that has a lot more data in it. So happy to forward that along if anybody's interested. But what we're seeing, we see results. So we started initially looking at STEM retention among elementary and middle school kids, which would be normal. And what we really started looking at there was persistence and problem solving. So where we would get, yeah, I'm interested in doing more STEM, we wanted to take it one level down and see, does any of their behavior or belief in practice change? So we start off every club with a marshmallow challenge, which is building a tower out of spaghetti and marshmallows, completely open-ended, no directions at all. And we just kind of qualitatively monitor how the students interact. And there's always going to be one student that takes charge and kind of other students that kind of hold back. What we saw last year was that when we did that same challenge at the end of the club, it was much more equal involvement. So that was kind of an interesting finding, and we're kind of looking at how to expand that a little bit. And then we also now are looking at the impact of this type of work on our undergraduate students. So for persistence and retention in a STEM major, since we have mostly STEM majors or education majors, how is them working with elementary kids changing their view as a future STEM professional? So it's bringing up some interesting sub-questions besides just the role of student engagement. And then finally, one more thing is we always try to really engage the teachers in the classroom, because we know, as always, funding isn't a permanent thing, and we want to make sure that teachers, especially in the elementary levels, see that STEM activities are not scary and are easily doable. And so we really focus on that as well. So, and again, Vicki mentioned the 75 different curricula, and that's always expanding because our students have really taken ownership. So we're always happy to share those with anybody who's interested. So thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Vicki, as well. I really appreciate the sharing and the enthusiasm that you both obviously have for this program, and clearly the outcomes have been very positive. Next, I'm going to ask our communications and outreach work group to share a few things with you about how you can participate more in the IMSTEM work, and also we will be sending out to everybody at the end of this information about the presenters, their programs, so that you can connect with them at your will, and hopefully we'll continue to create a collaborative atmosphere for you all to share across the 6 states. So I'm going to pop up the next slide, and Lisa, you or someone from your team can take it away from here.
This is Sanal.
All right,
so we're going to tell you about,
Yeah,
that's okay.
Hey, everybody. In the chat, I've posted just some public service announcements, so please forgive me for spamming the chat already. But I just wanted to share different ways that we are trying to get people connected with the IMSTEM network. And first is Twitter. You know, following us on Twitter. If you did not know, we actually have a specific handle dedicated to IMSTEM Equity. It is literally just IMSTEM Equity is the handle, and that's our hashtag, as you can see below. So I encourage you, if you individually have a Twitter account, or if you have no idea what the little blue bird is, my guess is probably your organization or some groups around your state do probably have Twitter accounts. So I encourage you to encourage them to follow us, to engage with us, to share information, to tag us. And if you need, if you know what the Twitter account is but aren't on Twitter, you can always email me as well, and I will make that connection as well. We've tried to reach out, or at least done a generic search of the different STEM organizations within each state, but we'd love to make sure and connect as many STEM, whether it's universities, nonprofits, schools, different entities to Twitter that are on Twitter, so we can continue that conversation and really kind of help promote the work that we're doing. All right, the next slide is our LinkedIn group. So I did put a PSA on the chat. You know, my guess is the majority of the people on the call have a LinkedIn profile or account, or did have a LinkedIn profile at some point. But I encourage you to get involved with our LinkedIn group. It's a great place where if you want to post different best practices, or even post a question. If you have a question about maybe how to reach some of these underrepresented groups, African American boys or young Latinas or different things like that, you know, we want to continue to grow. I think we're up to 40 plus members in our group, but I know we can easily get to several hundred within the 6 states. And I say within the 6 states, we are an equal opportunity organization as well. So if you know of people from other states outside of the IM STEM group of states, then we're more than happy to let them in and be a part of our discussions and groups and all that. We may charge them a fee, but we're happy to let them involved. Well, no, we're not going to charge them a fee or anything like that. But we really, I think right now the goal is those 6 states, but if someone else in a different state is really involved and wants to share, I think that's how we'll be stronger by working together, sharing best practices, and having these meaningful discussions. So I also posted
real quick, Sonal, quick before you move on. I was just thinking when David was talking about they have a post-program report, that would be a great thing to put in that LinkedIn group to be able to share some of those reports or links to the programs that you have, so that a lot of the programs that we heard from tonight are programs that want to expand. And so that LinkedIn group is more than just, posting like what you had for dinner or, memes. It's really to help you connect the programs and the conversation. You can also post resources, articles, research. So we really want to make that a vibrant place, but it's only vibrant if we get people in the conversation. So if you sign up for that, I will be in real time giving you permission to the group. So please go to that webpage and do it.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah. And then I also had posted a link to share with other people that are on the call. I mean, we have a ton of people on the call today, almost probably record numbers, but we really want to continue to grow our network and really involve as many people within that are passionate about STEM and equity. And really, this is a great way for them to get involved, to learn from each other, to share, to get feedback, different things like that. I love that someone had mentioned that the feedback comment that they always work to get feedback from all the students. I love that, so I'm going to steal that. But here's a snapshot of the webpage where you can go to basically join the IM STEM network, and then you'll get a nice little email that kind of sums up and welcomes them, and then we'll get them on our mailing list and go from there. And then after we get everyone signed up, or after you have signed up, so everyone on this call, if you have not joined a work group, this is your opportunity to really kind of take that next step. Besides just being on the call, listening, an opportunity to really become active, share, collaborate. And these are the 5 work groups we have: metrics and data collection, communications and resource sharing, which is a group I'm a part of, asset map building, effective practice scaling, and pilot monitoring. So, and there's a brief description of each of the groups, and we'll probably send this out, Mimi or Lisa, to everyone that's on the call, just so that you have it. And whichever work group or groups that you're interested in being involved with, don't hesitate to reach out, whether it's today, next week, or if you really have a full plate but you can't commit yourself till the spring, that's fine as well. Just let us know, and we'll get you connected from there. So that is all I had, unless there's another slide.
Nope.
The last slide is, does anyone have any questions? Last follow-up. I hope you've all been following the chat. There's been lots of discussion on the chat and resources that have been shared. If you haven't taken a look at that, now is a good time to sort of scroll back and look at a few of the things that people shared. I've been trying to monitor it for any specific questions, but it looks to me like there hasn't been anything in particular. So if anybody has any questions here at the last, now's the time to ask. We do these meetings on a quarterly basis, so there'll be another one in February. Watch for the announcement about it, and we'll keep you on the network list. We have a monthly newsletter that should be popping up in your email every month that has great resources, information about the network, as well as other programs. And I'd like to encourage all of you to identify other programs that we should be highlighting at each of these network meetings. Looks like there was a question about the STEM on Wheels program, and David or Vicki, I don't know, the question is this an after-school program that you're doing, the STEM on Wheels program?
After and before, we have a couple sites that do it as a morning program. And the school serves breakfast, so they do that with a couple different programs. For the most part, it's after school, though, yes.
Okay, great. All right.
You know, Mimi, this is I just want to make a comment. First of all, thank you to everyone that presented and shared information. But I think I wrote in the chat, you know, it's great to see. For those of you who don't know, you know, I work for Clark County School District in the K-12 area, so it's great to see the recognition behind all these opportunities for underrepresented, underserved young women, minorities in those informal learning environments. Because I know one thing, a lot of times we try to focus on changing curriculum and different things in the classroom, but I think I think everyone would probably agree it's these informal learning opportunities that really get students excited about STEM, because there's just so much going on throughout the entire school day. Having these after-school programs, these summer programs, these weekend events, that's really where we can get students excited about learning STEM and technology and these high-demand, high-wage careers. So I just want to give a big shout-out and a clap on the back for all the work that everyone's been doing. And it's great to see these informal learning environments continuing to be utilized to really get students engaged, because I'm a firm believer of that's how we have to get the students is we kind of have to go to them as opposed to them coming to us. So just wanted to say thank you for all the work that everyone's been doing around that.
Thank you. We believe in after school a lot. We think it's the way to go.
Great, and thank you to everyone, and we'll be seeing you again next quarter and in between via the newsletters. And please don't forget, sign up for a work group. That's how you can get more involved, and invite your friends and others to participate as well. If you have any questions, you know where to reach us. You can always go to our website at napequity.org/I'mSTEM, and that'll get you to the page that has the information about the project, and we'll be sending out a follow-up as well. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks again to all the presenters, too. You all did a great job.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.